let me reiterate that the Musharraf government failed to protect Benazir Bhutto as they should have. They passed on the information, the intelligence information about the threats, but they did not take commensurate measures to protect her. And that is very clear at the federal level, at the provincial level, and in the case of Rawalpindi. That is without a doubt. Now, as regards the Chima press conference, again, I cannot go into the questions that we posed to one of the witnesses, in this case, General Musharraf, because we promised him to keep this under confidentiality. But evidently, something like that was part of our conversation. That is all I can say. And what I can underline is that press conference, what it did, was it preempted and it prejudiced the criminal investigation, because, as we stated in the report, when the first joint, the first JIT was established, they met with Saud Aziz, and as they were having tea, they were able to see on television this press conference, and I think it was Aziz who said, well, so what are you going to investigate? Everything is solved. They already found the culprit, and they already know the cause of death. So the consequences of this hasty press conference, 24 hours after the assassination, was to preempt and to damage any investigation that could have led to perhaps a lot more clarity and less conspiracy theories than it turned out to be.
Now, you put the blame on CPO Saud Aziz. I understand that, but you also mentioned that he was not acting alone. He was not acting independently. So was he taking his cue from the military establishment, or was he taking his cue from the political leadership?
Well, all we can conclude is that evidently he was not deciding such important measures all by himself without a higher-up voice instructing him to do so. That is our conviction, because it is not only the washing down of the scene, and he argued that this had to be done in order to avoid chaos, to avoid violence on the part of Bibi's followers, when, first of all, in Rawalpindi, there wasn't a stronghold of the PPP, and in fact, there had not been any significant disturbances. And then another excuse that was given to us was that was a major thoroughfare. But on other cases, including when President Musharraf was attacked by a suicide bomber, they cordoned off for many days, searching for evidence. So there was different attitudes and measures for different cases. And in addition to that, Mr. Aziz was involved in the denial of the post-mortem examination in the Rawalpindi General Hospital.
But you do mention Major General Nadeem Ijaz Ahmed, who was the director of the military intelligence. Now, you, in part of your report, suggested that CPO Saud Aziz was in fact taking orders from him.
We know that there was communication between them. What was the strict contents of that communication? We cannot say for certain, but it is evident that a police officer such as Mr. Saud Aziz evidently was thinking of who and how his superiors might be thinking about such sensitive issues such as the ones that he was handling. So our conclusion is he couldn't have done it alone. The intelligence agencies don't have as a mandate to conduct criminal investigation, but they do. And that was recognized to us by high authorities of ISI, by high-ranking authorities of the Musharraf government. So this is no secret that they conduct an investigation. What happened was that they delivered piecemeal information to the police, and that led to an obstruction in the sense that the police, either on a deliberate way in in other cases, simply because they didn't know how deep were the intelligence services involved in investigating, they did not do what they should have done it with what they knew it was their professional duty. So the parallel investigation had a double effect. One, that is to accede to certain information, which the police was handed over, and in some cases we found out that the police did not know what the intelligence services had done. And in other cases, it led the police to do less of a job, thinking that, well, after all, there are more powerful forces involved here. Why should I risk myself? What happened was that since we spent so much time with the Rawalpindi police, we began to find out that they were not telling us all the truth. And we found out that after many, many conversations that we held with them, and we realized that some of the information that was unfounded that they had delivered to us at the beginning, they had also delivered to Scotland Yard.
So you were talking about responsibility, and you also talked about the Pakistan People's Party failing in their leadership. You mentioned many times the black Mercedes, which was carrying many PPP leaders, including the Interior Minister Rahman Malik. Now, the black Mercedes left just before the actual bomb blast took place. Do you see like a possible link between Benazir Bhutto's assassination and the departure of the black Mercedes?
Well, the departure of the black Mercedes was inexcusable, irresponsible, and one can hardly believe what happened, because this was the alternate vehicle in case precisely something like what happened would occur. And she was left alone in a vehicle that whose tires have blown off because of the explosion, that was driving merely on the rims, that was unable to get to the hospital, and that in the middle of the road, on Murray Road, she has to be transferred to a vehicle that happened to come passing by that belonged to a high PP official, Sherry Rahman. And that is inexcusable, because it was that vehicle, the black Mercedes, that should have been there.
And you never got access to the three people that she had named: Brigadier Jaz Shah, there was Hamid Gul, and the third person was Chaudhry Parvez Elahi.
Yes, being that this is when the last... no, that is not true. We did get access to two of them, but Mr. Hamid Gul refused to see us. In
your findings, who do you think was the most negligent? Which agency or which organization, party was the most negligent in Benazir Bhutto's assassination?
Well, that is very difficult, because there were shared responsibilities. I cannot point to any single instance, but if I had to, I would say she had received numerous threats that had been transmitted by the intelligence agencies of the government of the time. They had been transmitted by friendly governments. She had faced an assassination attempt in Karachi with 149 people dead. And even though all that evidence was available, she was not given the adequate protection. And that protection had to be given by the federal government, by the provincial authorities, and by the local Rawalpindi district police. There, my feeling is there's a huge responsibility. The roles and responsibilities of those around Benazir Bhutto as regards security were not sufficiently transparent and clear, and she did not have enough of a support. Major Imtiaz was simply not sufficient to the task that she was facing in terms of security. But it was clear to us that these were people that had been involved at the operational level, if they had been involved, and not what we had to at least put the emphasis on, who is behind the assassination. Not merely the handlers of the boy, the 15-and-a-half-year-old boy who blew himself up, but those that planned this, those that coordinated this, and those that eventually financed and cooperated with the assassination.